just that they can have all these unforeseen consequences, many of which are positive. So for us, we needed staff. I mean, the first year we didn't, it was me and 3 other officers from Parks and Wildlife, and we spent a week with 33 kids in the snow at 10,000 feet in the Grand Mesa. We went, oh, what did we do? This is insane. Why did we do this? And then, but we quickly realized we can bring high school students in as counselors. We can bring college interns in. We can bring other teachers. But really before that, we brought parents in, and we just asked for parents to volunteer. And a lot of these parents, they love camping with their kids. They want to see their kids do stuff like this in school.
Welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Kooler Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with Greg Weckenbrock. He is the lead instructor for the OWL program, Outdoor Wilderness Lab, of the Mesa County Valley School District. Greg, I'm really excited to get into this as we kind of previewed together. This is definitely a passion of mine, and I'm excited to learn more. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah. To start off, Greg, I typically ask guests, where did you grow up?
It's a great question. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and so southwestern Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, that tri-state area. It's where I grew up. Went outside, was in Boy Scouts, learned how to, I think, live and become comfortable outdoors, out in the forested hill country of the Midwest. And came to Colorado, though, in 2000. Went to school at Colorado State and earned a nice scholarship that kind of made it possible for me to leave Ohio, and I had never been to Colorado before, so I just sort of weighed my options and thought I could always come back to Ohio if this doesn't work, but may as well go out into the big mountains and see what it's like out there. And I've been essentially in Colorado ever since.
Right on. Were you in Cincinnati proper, or you're outside of the city?
Yeah, no, I was a suburban kid, pretty, I think, with in that respect, a pretty normal upbringing. We lived in the suburbs just north of Cincinnati in a small town called Wyoming. And, it had one high school, one middle school, 3 elementary schools, and most of my friends' senior year were my friends in kindergarten. So had a nice sort of small town upbringing as far as that goes, which made the transition to Colorado State with its 30,000 students or whatever was quite an adjustment, but it was a good one.
Yeah, that's a big shift. My grandparents were in Cincinnati.
Oh, that's right.
And so I'm a Midwest kid as well. I grew up in Chicago and then up in Michigan. So that's cool. So you came out to Colorado State. What was your focus of study?
Well, it changed. I changed my major 3 times. I started as a
sounds about right.
It was a biology degree, and I was on a pre-med track, and then I did that for 2 years. And you take these weed out classes, that are designed to kind of, I think, filter out the people that aren't really cut out to go the full distance with into medical school. And I got weeded out in my junior year. I took physical chemistry. I made it through organic chemistry and took second semester OChem in physical chemistry. And I tapped out at that point. And I switched my major to history. I was a history major for a year. And then I switched it again my senior year to psychology. I ended up earning a Bachelor of Science in psychology. And that's where I started really getting into, I think, to working with people, because I started volunteering at a group home for at-risk youth that was based there in Fort Collins. And I just saw kind of what the floor counselors were doing. And I thought, okay, maybe this, I could see myself doing this. And so I switched to psychology, and it fit like a glove. I was really, I was really kind of, I was working at my maximum capacity for my first 2 years and earning, barely earning C's and C pluses and thinking this is great, but I was in jeopardy of losing my scholarship, and I just couldn't quite keep the grades high enough. Plus, my advisor was sort of like, well, in order to get into med school, you can't just take the classes. You need to be getting A's in the classes. So I did the psychology track and ended up, I studied abroad for a year in Chile in that process. So I spent 2 semesters in South America, and that also kind of shaped my thinking. And I came home from that and thought, yeah, okay, this is what it means to be a college student. I probably wasn't cut out really to be a college student when I first went there. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but certainly post that experience and sort of weighing my options, how much time I had left to make a go of it, everything just kind of clicked, I guess. So I ended up with 4.5 years of undergrad, but then graduated and I interned during that last semester at the group home in an official capacity. I got hired immediately after that, after graduating, and that's kind of what led me down that track, if you will.
Yeah, got you. So did you get to Grand Junction from that group home? Like that developed a certain skill set and then this opportunity came up, or were there little steps in there?
Yeah, there were a lot of little steps, but so great question. I'll try to be concise. Anytime if I'm going on too much, you wouldn't give me a timeout. Like, great, quit talking, because it's an occupational hazard of teachers. We can fill up the space in a room with words till kingdom come. But the point is, the group home was formative. But we kept getting these students. So we were kind of on the juvenile justice track. If you got like a 2-year sentence, typically you would spend the first year in an incarceration, a full-on jail type facility, and then you would leave there and go to a number of different options. One of them was the group home where I worked, and then you would spend 9 to 12 months of the remaining part of your sentence in that, and kind of learning the skills and trying to, get out on parole and trying to reintegrate back into your community. And we kept taking in, kids from jail, but then we'd also take every 10th kid we'd get was dirty and ratty and smelly, wearing these crazy orange clothes that were just, filled with dirt from the desert, and they smelled of juniper smoke, and their facial hair was kind of going wild. And we would take, and we had guys and girls facilities, and so we just get these very kind of rough looking kids in, but they were coming to us from a wilderness therapy program, and they had just graduated out of that program. And they would come to us, really dirty looking on the surface, but really with this unique sense of confidence. And each one of the kids seemed to have that. And I probably, was responsible for intaking, maybe 10 or 15 students over the course of the next year who came from this wilderness therapy program in Western Colorado. And I just could not shake this, they all seem to have this defining characteristic, which was this inner strength and this sense of confidence. And so, I'd chat with them, and I got really curious about it. And they would say things like, if you want to go to a place where staff really cares about the student, go to this place. If you want to see a place where it does actually matter what you do here from the kid perspective, go to this place, talk to people in there. And that was coming from the kids themselves. So I just got really curious about it. And I had done, I was in the honors program at CSU, and we had to do an undergraduate thesis project. So I had actually spent a semester researching wilderness therapy. And so I kind of knew a little bit about it, but here I was getting this direct feedback from the kids that it seemed so valuable. And so I eventually, quit the job at the group home and got hired at the wilderness therapy outfit that at the time was based in Montrose, on the west side of the state here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what set me, that I guess that was the next chapter on that track. And then in the background, I was also, I was a river rafting guide, a commercial whitewater guide on the Poudre River behind Fort Collins. During my undergrad, just again, kind of for fun job as a college student. But I began to think, this might be something guiding, working for outfitters. This could be something that I do for a living as well. And so I knew I had an outdoor, passion, and I had a way of kind of making a living of doing that. And so I just thought, well, let me try wilderness guiding and backpack guiding and see if, see where that takes me. And so then I spent a year at the Wilderness Therapy Company in Montrose, and it was great. But jobs like that, they're intense, and so
yeah, they are.
Yeah, as you know, I'm sure. Yeah, from all of your wealth of experience in that world, it's I made it a year is kind of the way I like to think of it. And I think there were 12 of us when we started, and only 3 of us made it even outside of 3 months or something like that. So that's that taught me, I think, a lot of how to connect with people in alternative settings. And again, it kind of developed these skills of keeping a cool head in crisis, and but also relationship building skills and seeing people really it's tough to explain unless you've been out there and you kind of look across a firelight and you look into the eyes of these kids, and they're all just sort of wounded souls, and they've experienced so much trauma or just, guilt from all the poor decision making they've made or the stuff that's happened to them. But the part of wilderness therapy that really attracted me, that we've put a lot of it into our programming out here, is this idea that your confidence comes from within, and it's not the things on the outside, which, as teenagers, you're always sort of looking for ways to, like, the outside ways to become powerful, so the clothes you wear, the drugs you sell, the quick cash you make, the gun you carry, the gang that you're in, all these sort of outside influences that make you kind of feel powerful. It's when you get out there and they climb a mountain that they didn't think was possible, and they did it with their own 2 feet and these tiny little steps, and it led to this great big accomplishment. You begin to see that inner strength begin to grow, and when you nurture it, they kind of slough off the skin of all the other stuff that it just wasn't really the core to their being. And so it's great. And I know there's plenty of flaws with wilderness therapy, and it doesn't work for a lot of reasons, because kids eventually they go back to pretty much their same crappy communities, their same crappy schools, their same crappy relationships, their same bad parents. All the stuff, they kind of go back. And so the question is, how much of that inner core stays with them as they continue through their journey. And they'll probably screw up again and go back into the juvenile justice system somehow again. But the idea is, obviously that they do it less and less until they can hopefully stand on their own 2 feet. So,
well, there's definitely a component about that ability to transfer these experiences. And I mean, I see the passion, I hear it, and I've certainly seen it, of getting the shining eye, like sparking the spirit in a human, and that stuff is sticky. I think that does make a big play to a life. Whether or not we see it like in that moment, it could happen another 10 years, 20 years down the road. Like, we might be just planting seeds. But I want to circle back into like this subtle confidence that you've seen in some of these kids that you were talking about. Before we go there, though, give me the concise rundown. What is OWL? How does this fit within the current schools in Grand Junction?
So it's a great question. So Outdoor Wilderness Lab, we are owned and operated by our school district, which is Mesa County Valley School District 51. And we began as a pilot program, and we were actually approached by the Northwest Regional Office for Colorado Parks and Wildlife by 2, passionate officers that started with a simple question of why don't we have an outdoor school that's accessible for all kids? And they had plenty of, their own sort of vested interests in why they wanted to see, more kids going outdoors. We can go into that, if you'd like, but the short answer is basically they pitched it to the school district. They got it approved by the school board. They went looking for a school and a teacher who'd be a good fit, who just would sort of be a guinea pig with bring some students along and see what happens. And that's really how I got involved. I met them during the summer, and so we just determined let's try and take this trip. And it was a week long, and the focus is outdoor. It's really whatever learning you can do, let's do it outdoors. So it's a blend of outdoor education and environmental education, and it's really, we call ourselves an outdoor science school. In the first 7 years that we ran OWL as a pilot, it was a week-long experience. It's a 5-day experience, 4 nights, and so the students would do about 35 lessons during the time. Over the course of the week. And I had this really interesting sort of cycle where Monday, was a great big high, and Monday night it was hard to get the kids to go to sleep because they're excited. It's a sleepover. And then Tuesday, it was kind of this day of recognition where they're like, wait, where am I? And why am I still here? How many more days do I have to be here? And then, so it was kind of touch and go emotionally for a lot of the kids. And then Wednesday, it was kind of like this deciding day where they sit on the fence and go, yeah, I think I'm going to make it. And they kind of, sink their teeth into it and really begin to go. And Thursday was just sort of takeoff day. And it just was the best day, the best feeling. And we were lucky back in those days because we didn't, in some ways when you do, when you're involved in the startup phase of things, you don't have a lot of rules written for what you can and can't do. And so you just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And a lot of what you put out there are just solutions based on necessity. And so those can be just that they can have all these unforeseen consequences, many of which are positive. So for us, we needed staff. I mean, the first year we didn't, it was me and 3 other officers from Parks and Wildlife. And we spent a week with 33 kids in the snow at 10,000 feet in the Grand Mesa. We went, oh, what did we do? This is insane. Why did we do this? And then, but we quickly realized we can bring high school students in as counselors. We can bring college interns in. We can bring other teachers. But really before that, we brought parents in, and we just asked for parents to volunteer. And a lot of these parents, they love camping with their kids. They want to see their kids do stuff like this in school. And so, in those first 7 years, we really sort of built this army of parents who were involved year over year and continually taking more parents in. I think when you do that, the unforeseen consequence for us was that parents became really invested at really from the very beginning in a very visceral, real, hands-on way, because they came up there and they lived with us. They helped us teach. They got their hands dirty, and that is a priority for them. Well, most of them are working, so they had to take a week off, and it was a big deal. What that did was give us a lot of community support, and I think seeing or listening to the feedback from the parents who were involved in those early years, remembering year over year what it felt like on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday of that experience, and just how, and then on Fridays when you go home and you release the kids back to their parents, the rest of the parents that didn't come up as volunteers, and the parents kind of do this double take where they're like, wait, is that really my kid? Because again, it goes back to that confidence thing where they kind of don't. It's just like when I worked for the Wilderness Therapy Company, I got to work some of those reunifications where they meet with their parents at the end of their 3 months in the wilderness. And the parents are just all teared up. It's so emotional. And there's something that they can't quite recognize about their kid. And they go, well, this isn't the same individual that left me a month ago or a week ago or whatever. And so seeing those, kind of 3 sources of positive feedback in the loop just, I guess, kind of kept me going back and willing to continue to invest my time and energy into it. But we essentially ran OWL out of the back of my classroom in those early days, and we kept scaling it up, the number of people and staff that we could fit into a given week until the last year, in year 7, we had 200. We had 160 students, 150 students. We had 40 high school students who were our camp counselors. We had 3 interns from our local universities, Colorado Mesa. We had another 30 or 40 parents. We had 10 teachers. We had CPW officers. And I just looked at this army and this sort of, or not army, but this sort of like MASH unit of a school that we would put together for 1 week a year. And when we got 250 people here and all these wheels are in motion, and this is it though. We have, I think right now District 51 is the 14th largest school district in the state. We have around at the time we had something like 2,200 sixth graders. And I went, essentially the writing is on the wall. Everybody involved is a volunteer. And this is we're growing.
Yeah.
We're at the top of what we can expect volunteers to realistically contribute. And B, there's not, we've reached the limits of how we can grow in this way. And so it created a pivot point for us. And we had to, begin to think what direction can we take this next. And that's how we ended up, we had to, again, solicit the school board for approval and solicit in particular for annualized funding on District 51's budget. And it's small, it's a meager contribution, but it's enough to, get us going and keep us going. And it funds, day-to-day operations for us and our staffing. But we also have a committed and strong partnership with CPW, both, for personnel and for budget. They're budget contributors to us. And then we take, a lot of funding from just donations and fundraisers throughout the community and grant writing.
Oh, sweet.
And so, looking back at that transition, we kind of looked at it and went, what do we really need to make this a success? And it was a permanent facility and a full-time staff. And so the school district really came through and said, we have this school in Gateway, Colorado, so 54 miles southwest of Grand Junction. It's a K-12 school, and it services the local ranching communities, essentially in the Gateway and Uniweep Canyons. And it has for many, many years. The school's been here over 100 years. It's currently the oldest school building in our school district. And that being said, most people don't even know it's here or that it's even a part of District 51. And so there were some facilities and there were some other sort of services that the district was providing for this campus already that were sort of underutilized. And so a cafeteria, office spaces, nurse's office. We have an admin. We have a principal who works full time, or I should say, who we work for essentially full time. And but he can oversee us and represent us at the administrative level in district in sort of the district hierarchy of things, and a gym, full kitchen. And so these things were very modestly used, and so it became a good fit. And then the other piece was that we have a partnership, or I'm sorry, we have an agreement, a land use agreement written with with some of the neighboring landowners, so we could expand our campus significantly here to I think we have 163 acres approximately, and so
that's amazing.
It checked a lot of boxes for land availability to do the types of lessons that we want to do, facilities, staffing, but and the final thing is kind of like the hidden gem of it, which is when you get out, if you've ever been to Gateway, but when you get out of the car here, your eyes get this big, and kids get off of the bus. Gorgeous. And they don't believe where they are, and it's still in Mesa County. It's right in our backyard from Grand Junction, but you may as well drop off into another world here. So it kind of had that intrinsic natural value
that's amazing, Greg. So today, how do students get involved? Does everybody come through? Is this for middle schoolers and they're going to come and have an OWL experience at some point in their career of D51 schooling?
Yes. So that's the idea. So the specific target for students is sixth grade students, and the idea is that we want to create an opportunity for every single student in the school district, and that they they have an opportunity to access this experience that we're providing. And so, strategically, there's a few different ways to accomplish that, but essentially we've chosen, I think, the simplest, and we're not reinventing the wheel here. That these school districts send middle school students to outdoor schools all over the state. Honestly, we're sort of borrowing 90+% of what we're doing from Jefferson County. They're the oldest and biggest outdoor school in the state, and they're unique because their district still owns and operates their properties. They have two properties called Outdoor. They call it Outdoor Lab. They have two properties. They put 20,000 plus students through those properties. Don't quote me on that. I'm not good with numbers like that, but we've gone and done a number of professional development days with them, and it is some massive amount. I can't remember how many total sixth graders they have, but they get all of them through, and they're the largest district in our state, and so it's quite a impressive feat. But they've been at it for 60, 70, 80 years at this point. So you have all this generational kind of culture and investment sort of built in it. And I go to Outdoor Lab because my parents went there, my grandparents went there. And so for us, we're taking that model, which is here, let's take one grade level, allow every student to come during that time. And then that is at least a beginning where they can come back and they can do other stuff for us. They can, they can come back as high school students. They can come back as college interns. They can come back as community members. They can actually be high school interns now and live with us for a semester as a high school student, which is pretty cool, and still get their credit and take online coursework throughout their time here. But all that to say is we want to try to be kind of the beginning point for all of, we're not necessarily the beginning point for every student, but we want to at least be that potential for every student. And so, some of our kids come to us and they have plenty of outdoor experience. They go hunting and fishing and mountain bike riding and skiing, and they do all the things. But I would say, honestly, the majority of our students don't. This is their first camping trip. This is their first time away from home. This is the longest they've spent away, the farthest they've been away. And it's quite a transformational experience for in that aspect. But what we really what I am driven toward, part of what keeps me moving in this direction is this idea that if you just, their passion projects like this are a dime a dozen. Teachers are the best people on the planet. I think I'm biased because I am one, but they just, we're filled with passion. We love working with kids. We're people. We like families. We like, just working in the space. We want to affect change and do good things for people in their lives. And we say in the business, like, we have a heart for kids. And so because of that, we're always wanting to share what we're passionate about. And so it's, you get these teachers with a passion project, and they love going cross-country skiing. So they take their class cross-country skiing, and that becomes Mrs. So-and-so's thing. And they do that, the fifth grade does that every year. And it's great. The downside, and what I've observed in my experience is when that teacher retires or they move on, nobody really picks up that passion project. So it kind of, just dies on the vine, and then the kids coming down the pipeline, they don't have access to it anymore. But in a broader sense, looking at the district as a whole, I just, I don't know, from my background, I guess, and all the schools I've worked in have generally been on, sort of the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder. And so you just sort of look at it and go, well, the teachers with the passion projects to do these things, they're not even in this school. So if you just have kind of bad luck and you end up at this school instead of that school, you don't get access to the trip or the experience because of that reason. So, what is something that every, as we have to justify our mission and our existence, I think, a lot of the time, because we're not part of the core study. We're not, literacy and math. The students aren't going to take a state test based on what we do with them here at the end of each year, and we understand that. So when we answer the question, well, first of all, why the school district? Why does it? Why do we need public funding for being spent on taking kids camping? Shouldn't that be done in their families or in their community groups? Or shouldn't it be, done on these kind of one-off field trips, or let's go during spring break, or let's organize a summer trip? The answer is always, the public school district is the one thing that all kids at least have access to. And if we create a platform where they can all access this experience in 1 year, then we have a chance of capturing them all. Now, the other side of it is not all kids come to OWL. And so that's where we get into the culture piece, where it's a work in progress at each building. And I'll say each middle school is at a different, honestly, is at kind of a different level of participation. But each year our numbers continue to grow, which is, I know everybody has these kind of factors, and, we all were affected by the pandemic. So that's not really, rationale, but that certainly, took us down a little bit, and kind of took our normal programming offline. We still were able to make school site visits and bring kids out for day trips, but we can do the overnight trips, which is really what we kind of hang our hat on. And then, just the challenges post-pandemic, and even, our school district in particular has a declining enrollment, and it's added for the last really 2 to 3 years is my understanding, that we have less fifth graders and less fourth graders than we had fifth graders and third graders. So, but despite that, our numbers continue to grow. Obviously, our goal is 100% of all students, but again, it takes the right teachers in the buildings. It takes the right leadership, at the administration level. It takes the right parents and community members in that school to really want to do it, to be involved. Okay. And so, and the last piece I'll say is there's a user fee to it, and so, which again, that's consistent with schools across the state, but it's certainly another barrier to entry. So currently, the fee to attend now is $155 a student, and so that that prices out a number of kids. There is this year we had about $30,000 in financial assistance that we at our side raise from community donations and community partnerships that we have, grants that we've written, and we turn around and give that money directly to the schools, so then the teachers can administer a scholarship or discounts or financial aid to their students that in ways that best meet their needs. But ultimately, when parents see a certain price tag and if it is even close to being a financial stretch, you could talk to them and say, hey, okay, you can budget this. Let's save $20 a month. Your school's not coming up till April. You can make this work. Sure. But if they're on the fence about going anyway, because they never went camping as a kid. It's not something they do. They're nervous about it.
Yeah.
The kids don't bring their cell phones. That's a big deal for a lot of parents. I mean, honestly, post-pandemic, you have this, there was a lot of distrust that went on, but during the pandemic between the community and the school district, and we're still working, I think, on repairing some of that. And so, this idea of, you're going to take my kid where, how long, to do what, how kind of, I don't know. And now I have to,
Let me ask you a question, Greg. So, I mean, I'm hearing all of this, and I definitely see your passion. Part of the game is making sure that teachers and everybody in the district has awareness of OWL. And then it's also making sure that as many barriers are reduced or eliminated so that kids can jump in and experience it. So this is a question for the students as well as adults. So anybody listening right now, this might be the meaty part of the conversation outside of just gaining awareness and making sure people know about OWL. Why? What have you seen in students that creates the impact, that adds the value? When I hear it, and I'll let you speak in just a minute, when I hear $155, I'm like, oh man, for what that $155 will gain in experience is nothing. Let's figure that out. And what do you see, whether it's an empowerment, whether it's confidence, what would you see for, any human to be able to have an experience like you're facilitating? What's the real juice there?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because it really gets at the heart of the issue. And I mean, for us, we transform kids. And I know that, if you're looking at trying to raise test scores and you're an administrator and you're looking at it and going, well, how does that directly translate to getting kids reading and writing and solving, and doing mathematics? That's an answer that they don't typically, that's not what they want to hear. Oh, we all transform kids. It's called going to school. And I think that, I'm always cautious because I was a classroom teacher for 12 years before I stepped full time into this role. And I know the passion and I know the good work that goes on in classrooms, and that learning is vital and it's priceless, and you can't replace that. We're not trying to replace it. We're trying to add to it. And so, the type of education that we do here at OWL or in anywhere in this industry is it's experiential, it's hands-on. And so when you're able to do something as you're learning it, or to practice something that you just learned, it creates this experiential memory that you can kind of hook that piece of learning onto in your mind, and it makes it so much more impactful. So you commit what you're learning to memory, you find new outlets and practices for real uses of these skills when you learn when you learn by doing. So there's a huge component to the experiential education part that it heaps of data out there of shows that when you learning by doing creates better, more impactful, more meaningful learning. So that's kind of the first thing. That's kind of the education lens, but that's only one component of the transformation process. And I think this applies to not only kids, and specifically the ones we do, but all kids certainly, but really grown-ups, all of us. There are so many intrinsic benefits. The second piece of the transformation, the benefits of spending time outdoors. And in the Grand Valley, we do have a pretty strong culture of people spending time outdoors, and kids, the participation rate in sports is pretty high. And so you're out on the soccer field, you're getting fresh air, you're breathing, you're getting physical activity, exercise, you're learning teamwork. All that stuff is great. The difference is when you interact with nature, in a visceral way, in a hands-on way. It's different than just watching, some amazing 4,000K David Attenborough, like BBC special, video of nature. When you're actually out there using your five senses and you're experiencing it at this multi-sensory level, it has a number of effects on your mind, your body, your emotional, physical, and mental well-being, for reducing anxiety and for reducing stress and stimulating creativity and stimulating positive thinking and stimulating problem-solving and solution-making. And I, again, you can Google it. You can find any research in the world you want nowadays. So there's plenty of it out there, but it's good for us. I think anybody who's ever taken, a walk through a park or a hike through the woods or a mountain bike or a paddle on a river somewhere, you come away from that experience feeling slightly different than when you started. And I don't think the same thing can be said necessarily in a day-to-day school day or a day-to-day, 3 hours on your couch watching your favorite movie. It might transform you, it might move you, but there's a high likelihood, and so I see it on the day, on the day-to-day level working with kids. Hey, how was your day at school today? Fine. What'd you do? I can't really remember. It kind of was the same as the last however many days. And so, when you come to OWL, these days are not the same as the rest of their school days. And so that piece of spending the time outdoors, of learning in an experiential fashion. And the third component to the transformation is the social emotional level. And so that circles back to kind of where we began, and the value of accepting challenging experiences and trying to meet that challenge the best way you can. It forces you to kind of step outside of your comfort zone. And when you do that, you stretch what your capacity is and what you thought you were capable of doing. And so for a lot of these kids, they're pretty darn nervous when they come out here. And they how am I going to do this? And then even in just because nowadays Outdoor Wellness Lab is only 3 days. It's 2.5 days, 2 nights. So it's a Monday, Wednesday, or it's a Wednesday, Friday. And we made that decision to try and just open up the calendar to get more students in. And it's worked pretty well. We have over 1,000 students attending OWL annually now. And I think when those kids get here on that Monday, the days are full. A school day typically ends at 3 or 3:30 or whatever, and then they kind of go on they go home or whatever they do. Many of the students, they don't really go home to academically rich environments, or they don't go into a community that's really highly engaging. And here, at 3:00, the day is only half done. We do lessons with the kids till 9:30 at night. So it's very sort of intense, but we do that by design because we know we only have, I think there's only 52 hours, honestly, that they're on campus. Like, that's the sum total of the hours that they're on campus. A third of that spent sleeping, and then there's, eating times, other stuff. But really, it's, by the time they get to Wednesday, they may as well have been here 2 weeks. I mean, they are, so we see the effects of that transformation. The social emotional level, doing it with a group is so valuable. Making new relationships with peers, because 6th grade in our district is the first year of junior high, basically. So it's a melting pot. They come from all these different elementaries. We have 26 elementaries in District 51, and they feed into 7 middle schools. So a lot of this, they don't know their classmates, they don't know their peers. And so forcing them out to form new relationships, see their teachers in different lights, the stuff. I always tell people, if you want to see the magic of ALC, 'cause we get a lot of visitors come out during the day and they see the good work, they see it happening, and it's great. And they leave here, kind of thumbs up. This is great. And that for anybody who wants to come out, please, we're always happy for visitors. We understand it's an effort to get all the way out here. So we celebrate whenever we have people come out. It's an open campus in that regard. But really, if you want to see the magic of OWL, you stay with us on the second night, which is the last night that they're here, and you sit around the fire with us during what we call the fire story lesson, and you listen to their testimonials, and you listen to what they share out. Before I came here, I was pardon me, let me just ignore that phone call, even though that's my boss calling. But I see we're probably up against it on time here, so I'll try to summarize the last bit. You hear, before I felt this way, now I feel this way. And it comes from the mouth of kids, and you can't put a price on that. So that's the transformation piece where they just, they're challenged, but it's in a positive and supportive environment, and they are I don't know. It's hard to, seeing is believing, and so when you see it, you know what you're looking at, and so it's so powerful.
Yeah. I love it. I get it. How do parents, how do business owners that want to support, how do community members that want to get engaged or support, how do we get a hold of OWL and learn more?
That's a great question. I appreciate you, just bringing that up. So if you want to find out more about Outdoor Wilderness Lab, go to our website, first and foremost, outdoorwilderness.org. All of our contact information is on there. If you want to find out more, outdoorwilderness.org is the website. My name is Greg Weckenbrock. My email is easy. It's greg.weckenbrock@d51schools.org. If you want to donate, there's a button to donate directly to OWL right there. But what we really like are forming partnerships with supporting organizations where it's good for you and it's good for, don't get me wrong, we're happy with all the donations that they go directly to this Kids Scholarship Fund or the Financial Assistance Fund. But what we really seek are community partnerships. So if there's a way that you and your organization, your business wants to see, your logos on our t-shirts, or you want to see just the intrinsic value of directly making an impact in the lives of kids. This aligns with your vision, your business model. If you work in the outdoor spaces, then we'd love to talk with you and see about ways that we can partner on a long-term basis, because we really value those relationships, and we're growing, and it's a good thing to be a part of something that's growing. I think it's easy to kind of dwell on negative stuff in life, but you come out here and you won't catch a whiff of that. This is a positive place to be, and it's about kids, so can't help but be positive.
I love it, Greg. We'll include all the details of URL and email in our show notes, and I encourage listeners to reach out, learn more, especially if you're in the area and want to support the development of youth into adults. I think it's important work. You hit on all the strong suits of why this stuff's important. I'm definitely a firm believer in it, Greg. And I know today's busy, so I just want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate the passion and the sharing, and we'll do our best to get this out into as many ears as possible.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate your time, your interest, your involvement in this space that you have for community members, and good luck in all that you do, and we'll see you down the road.
Yeah, you probably will see me down the road. I'll have to stop by the campus here in a minute.
Okay.
I really appreciate it, Greg.
Right.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Kooler Lifestyle Podcast. We count on your subscriptions, your likes, your shares, and I encourage you to do that now. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, lower right-hand button. If you're on audio, download this, share it, and we look forward to having you on the next one.